Hello, this is Sheshachalam from Astroguide Mysore. So today let us understand the negative placement of Saturn and its Mahadasha and its repercussions on the native's life. Because I'm starting this particular video very clearly to explain the negatives, do not unnecessarily get into panic mode and start searching these placements in your chart. This channel is very clearly for those who want to study astrology and understand it better and get into the prediction level where prediction or predictive astrology where you will be able to understand others problems and other charts, not to simply ponder into this your own charts and get into panic. So don't get into it. I'll be anyway giving you some remedial measures for it, but not all remedial measures, not all problems are having remedial measures. So when is Saturn negative, or when does Saturn give negative results? A yogakaraka Saturn in a chart, like for example for the Tula Rashi, if the Lagna is in Tula Rashi or it's in Libra ascendant, the fourth and the fifth lord Saturn becomes a yogakaraka. That means it becomes a naturally malefic planet, becomes a natural benefic to that particular ascendant. See, Saturn, Sun, Mars, these are all considered as natural malefics. But naturally, for that particular ascendant of Libra, it becomes a Yogakaraka. It's a fantastic planet which can give excellent placement and combinations with different planets, which can give Raja Yogas, excellent results. But when a planet like a Yogakaraka becomes weak, that doesn't become negative. So if Saturn is lordship wise also negative, that is, as per the lordship from the ascendant, it is a negative to that ascendant, or it is inimical to the ascendant. Next, it is debilitated, it is weak, it is retrograde and debilitated, or it is retrograde powerfully negative because it is retrograde and powerful. Combust, it becomes like I can't do anything kind of a situation. Saturn should not go into that situation because it puts a person into delay, delay, and delay. So, weak as per the Shadbala, and then posited in Dustanas, the 6th, 8th, and the 12th. See, once again, if it is in the 8th house and if it is working with a good planetary position, not position, but being the lordship, like for example, because when the 8th house is referred to Saturn, people will tell it is the uh, Karaka for the 8th house, that is, it is the signification for the 8th house. But here, if Saturn is posited in its own sign in its 8th house, will you consider it negative for that particular ascendant because it's sitting in the 8th house? Obviously, no, it is not fully negative, but still, because of its dual lordship, there is a chance that Saturn can become partially negative. So, we need to understand Saturn on its lordships also. So, because this is not such an easy subject to give sudden clarity, because there are two signs on which Saturn holds its ownership. One is Capricorn, the other one is Aquarius. So, for example, if I take Cancer ascendant, Capricorn will be the 7th house sign and Aquarius will be the 8th sign. So Saturn will be the 7th lord and the 8th lord. So partially it is malefic. That means partially it is benefic also. So we need to see where it is posited. So if that sort of a planet like Saturn is posited in the 8th house for Cancer ascendant, I will obviously not call it fully malefic at all. It is like now partially malefic. It is going to give you a long life because it's sitting as an Ayusthana Adipati is sitting in the Ayusthana, giving the Ayu. That is, it's the planet of longevity, the Karaka, the signifier of longevity, sitting in the eighth house, which is the house of longevity. So it will give. So let us not take Saturn's position always negative, or let us not take Saturn as negative, because there is a myth that people think that Saturn itself is a negative planet. Please do not do that mistake, because I have done a video 2 3 days back where I have very clearly done Mahadasha of Saturn, that is Saturn Mahadasha for positive placements. So today is for negative placements. So let us start to understand the results. Chronic diseases and related mostly to bone joints, particularly the leg and the back. That is the back pain or the low back pain, the sciatica. These things can come up in the particular period of Saturn if it is posited in a bad position or in a mediocre position. So long-standing problems like chronic diseases like breathing problems, asthmatic problems, sinus problems, problems related to the gut, all this can, any problem walks into the Saturn Dasha. So this I keep telling to people that when you are entering into a Saturn Dasha, keep in mind that you are entering into it with good health status. Don't enter into a Saturn Dasha with a chronic problem, because it will multiply it or it will maintain it. So try to enter into a Saturn Dasha as good as your health as possible. So weakening of the bones at an early age, getting caught into litigations, unwanted enmity or competition. This we can see in corporate sectors, in places of work, that unwanted enmity and competition will be there, which will unnecessarily trouble and harass the person. He'll go through, or he or she will go through a lot of difficulty in continuing job in that particular area. Misfortune, grief, pain, feeling of getting lost, and failures. Such a big list of negatives which will actually put you into sudden anxiety that whether these are going to happen in real. So I have seen many people suddenly leaving their jobs in a good job in Saturn Mahadasha because of the bhuktis of Saturn. Like, for example, Saturn Dasha Jupiter Bhukti, that is Mahadasha of Saturn and Antardasha of Jupiter. A person will unnecessarily sometimes, I am not telling always, please try to understand that not for all people who are having Saturn Jupiter. Maybe Saturn and Jupiter are sitting in 6 8 position from each other, or some inimical positions from each other. So a person can suddenly get into a lot of stress and depression because of the job, or because of family life, or he might get a false an idea or a dream that he can start a business and do wonderfully well. So this particular thing will suddenly put him into a position where he will leave the job on the pretext that he will get into a better business, or on the pretext that his depression will simply vanish once he leaves the job. No, it will not vanish, because Saturn Jupiter Dasha, that is particular period, will continue for something like around 28 months or more than that, and it will certainly see that things will go difficult. So if it is difficult, we need to understand that stay low in the Saturn Jupiter Dasha. Do not unnecessarily try to explore or exercise your brilliance, and sometimes staying low, you will go through less loss. Unnecessarily trying to fly around in that period, you may fall down and break bones. So we need to be very cautious in the Saturn, Jupiter, Saturn, Rahu, Saturn, Mercury periods in particular. So, difficulty in married life, if it is posited in certain placements like the seventh house or with the seventh lord. So these things all have to be understood, that combinations work here. It is not alone Saturn which is doing things here. It is the Mahadasha of Saturn, but the Antardashas, that is the sub periods, are very important for us to understand. We need to know the lordship of this sublord, and we need to know from Saturn and the sublord what is the actual placement. Like, for example, whether it is 5 9 combination, 4 10 combination, or 1 7 combination from Saturn and the sublord. We also need to see the nakshatras of the Saturn, nakshatra of the sublord, understand the relationship between these nakshatras, like the Tarabala and all. These are all very deep. You go into it, you will understand very well, and it is beautiful to do this research, that why in this particular Tarabala it is working well, and why in this particular Tarabala it doesn't work. Like the Janmatara, Kshematara, Pratyaktara, and Janmatara, Dhanatara, Kshematara, sorry, Pratyaktara, Kshematara, Vipat, and then Pratyak, sorry. The third one is Vipat, and then I think Pratyak will come something. I am a little confused here. What is it first? Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, that's what. So the first one is Janma, second one is Dhana, third one is Vipat, fourth one is Kshema, fifth one is Pratyak, which third and the fifth are not good. That is Vipat and Pratyak is not good. Sixth one is Sadhaka Tara. Sadhaka means where a person can achieve doing hard work. Seventh one is called Vadha or Naiduna, which means that it is going to be a deadlock. And then we have the eighth one is Mitra, ninth one is Adimitra, that is extreme friend. We will do a video on all these Tarabalas, because Tarabala is also to be explained in detail. So we'll come there later on, because there are a lot of things to be explained. I am still in the starting few videos only. We have done only 600 videos, 661 or something running, but these are all very much in the basics. So let us continue. So, unfulfilled hidden desires. This is very important to understand, that if Saturn is posited malefically in the eighth house and weak, then the person will go through a lot of depression due to dissatisfaction. Very important point. Long life but painful living. People think that Saturn, when it is in the eighth house or with the eighth lord, gives a long life. Great. But why? You need a very long life if you don't have a good life or a happy life or a healthy life. So here it is more with regard to health. Either bad health or living a lonely and solitary life. So this lonely life also is seen from Saturn when it is posited in the second house and is extremely weak, that a person suddenly will get a job somewhere. Let us say a person working in India is now working somewhere in Dubai or somewhere in any other country. It's not only that Dubai is like that. Any other country, that he has to live in a small accommodation where the food requirement, the facility of getting what he wants to eat or what he is accustomed to eat is not available. And we always tell that a person has, as per the classics, it is written that a banished person, a person who becomes a vagabond, what does he get to eat? Whatever he gets, he has to adjust with that. So that is how it refers to in the epics. Now, when we bring it to the modern context, it is like going to a faraway land and working there for the livelihood, but it's as good as you are aching, out day in day out. You are trying to do one by one. So yeah, so unhappiness and trouble or worry from children. Children are a source of happiness. Children are a source of joy, and it's a source of satisfaction. Children are not it. They are the source of satisfaction for any parent or grandparent. What if they grow up to become such characters that they start giving trouble to their own parents? That can happen if Saturn is badly posited in the fifth house. So, this is mentioned particularly in many books and in many places and commentaries by Dr. B.V. Raman. Very intensely, he has written in depth for the fifth house. I think the book is Judgment of Horoscopes, volume 1. Beautifully, he has written excellent composition, excellent writing, and I love his books. Dr. B.V. Raman, his books are an epitome in astrological literature. It's somewhere else. So, danger of weapons. Next point is danger of weapons if it is posited along with Mars or afflicted by Mars. Danger of poison or getting poisoning or food poisoning when it is afflicted with Ketu. And afflicted with Ketu in the sense that Saturn Dasha, Mars Antardasha, Saturn Dasha, Ketu Antardasha. This is what we are talking here. We are not talking about the positions. So, shifting of places, this is very important. People will have built their own house, they thinking that this is the job in which they are going to continue there, and suddenly something happens and they will have to forcibly rent out their own house, travel all the way thousands of kilometers to some other place. The whole family shifts there. It's an obligation, it's a forceful shift. Nobody wanted to shift there because of the livelihood. You have lost your job here, you're getting a job somewhere 1500 kilometers away. Why will you stay in that house? You will rent that house and again stay in another rented accommodation. How tough it is when a person has built a beautiful house for himself and is forced to stay far away from it. So that is also seen in the Saturn Mahadasha. So intense fear or getting into OCD is seen in Saturn Mahadasha. I have seen many people, they have lived a very normal life until a trauma or until a particular event happens in their life. Something like a divorce, separation from children, or something like an accident. They go through intense pain and trauma. They recover, but not fully, and this can result into a lot of difficulties for the family and the native himself. So these require different remedies like psychological therapy. Some people require medical therapy. Some people require without medicine and drugs. They require oral psychological counseling. Altogether, when Saturn goes wrong, a person has to be cautious in that particular dasha period of 19 years. It's not a small period. It is the second biggest dasha. The first one being that of Venus. Second biggest planetary dasha is that of Saturn. So, the most important point here today for Saturn dasha here is there might be wasteful expenses that the native would have to bear for that particular person or that particular house which the Saturn denotes. We all know marriages are a wonderful celebration, and every family would be elated to get their son or daughter or great granddaughter or grandson get married, and that particular celebration or function would be awaited for many years. Great, we all love that. I also attend family functions where we all have good time and we enjoy. But when a person is going through a Saturn dasha or a Rahu Antardasha, Saturn or something else, and he in his family, or he is the main person of the family, head of the family, and he is performing a marriage, a kanya danam, what you call, as he is trying to give away his daughter in marriage to a nice family, you have to double check the backgrounds. That is because when you are going through a tough period, you should be double sure that when you are spending so much of money in celebration, it should not go waste. It should not be that the marriage doesn't last for even a year. It is such a sorrow that the person who has earned years and years of hard work, and he spends all that money on a marriage, and it goes vain, in vain. So please be very clear that you, as a native who is spending on any particular situation, the fifth house, marriage of a daughter, the ninth house, well-being or health of father, the fourth house, renovation of a house or health for mother, the third house, problems and litigations with siblings, unnecessary going hyper and spending money on court, if it is in the eighth house. So please try to understand. Do not get into panic and spend heavy amounts in the Saturn Mahadasha until unless you know its position, and that caution has to be observed, because the person which is denoted by Saturn, or the situation which is denoted by Saturn, can forcibly put the native into taking wrong decisions. What an excellent point, which has been written by many astrologers, but has not been specifically mentioned. So there is also, when Saturn is in the 12th house and badly posited, or in the 8th house badly posited, the 6, 8, 12, that is what we are discussing today. When Saturn is in the weak position, it is like the Dustanas, the 6th, the 8th, the 12th, you know, and afflicted also. It should not be afflicted, like a retro Mercury sitting along with Saturn. A benefic planet along with Saturn is a dangerous position, except for Jupiter with Saturn, which can make a person a very stabilized, very balanced person. But other than that, all other planets give one or the other negatives. Jupiter also gives a negative, but it is like he is very sober. You cannot make him run fast into any job. So, all planetary combinations either give positive and also some negative results. So, let us not go into that deviation now. So, Saturn in a very bad position of the 8th house or the 12th house can give unnecessary imprisonment, both long term and short term, suspension, sorry, not suspicion, suspension, allegation, humiliation, pending inquiry, all these things, if at all in a corporate job or something like that, sudden loss of job. So, it's not for everybody, please, again, whenever I tell something, please don't get into panic. I am continuously repeating this particular point, is that is because many of you who are seeing this video are not astrologers, and you should have gone into detailed study to look at your own chart. Particularly, I have mentioned this while in by the at the time of starting this video, that this particular classes, or not this only this class, most of these classes, what I am doing is to teach astrology for students, not to see their own charts and get into panic. So please, so this is one thing which you should understand. So the Saturn can also give unnecessary, unhealthy relationships with the wrong person. So nowadays, jokes apart, Getting married to the right person itself, there will be a lot of, stress and, you know, thinking, where people will think that how this marriage might go through, how will I even be able to take it ahead successfully when it is with the right person. Think of getting into a relationship with a bad person. God bless. So, thank you very much for today's class. Sorry. Just closed down. I'm sorry. I have to give some remedial measures. Let me try to give you some remedial measures for Saturn. I have spoken about these remedial measures in the earlier videos, particularly for Saturn. I have given you Saturn and remedial measures for Saturn. I will upload that video, and that is the exact remedial measures which has to be taken for the Dasha of Saturn also. Thank you very much for today's class.